Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And this week I want to talk about God of War again, because last time I did it, it did pretty well in the algorithm. So if you watched that video, thank you. It's always a joy to see the non-Godzilla related content do good, because despite my name, I like covering all fiction. But anyways, when covering Kratos matchups, there's three very popular matchups that the Ghost of Sparta always finds himself in. The three matchups I'm talking about are against Doom Guy, Dante, and the subject of today's video, Asura from Asura's Wrath. Of those three guys, Asura seems to share the most similarities with Kratos. They're both very angry demigods that were betrayed by their pantheon of gods. Both of these characters' main motive of revenge revolves around their personal family, and both are offsprings of the king of the pantheon who is really good at using lightning. There's even little things like both of these characters dying and having to climb out the afterlife, an abundant amount of quick time events, and even the general aesthetic and tone is pretty bar for bar. Now that I say it out loud, Santa Monica, do you guys need a lawyer or something? I think I know a good one.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do.
But anyways, like I said, there's two other Kratos matchups that I will talk about maybe in the near future, but I want to talk about this one first, because these two are the most grandiose, with Asura especially having some of the coolest looking stuff. But is this matchup actually close? I've heard arguments for both sides. I'll say this, Kratos is no stranger to the channel. You guys know that. He certainly backs up that title, the Ghost of Sparta. But how about Asura? I hear a lot of people say that he can beat Kratos, and he does, like I said, have the cooler looking stuff. We'll be talking about all that and his lore to see where he scales at his highest possible end. Scratch that, highest possible end, that's not Ratwink. But that's just one of multiple things we'll solve today as we seek to find out which of these two god killers would win in this hypothetical clash of the titans. Will Kratos walk away with his second consecutive W on this channel, or has he finally met his match? But first, if you like the power scaling content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We cover a wide variety of topics from Godzilla to Five Nights at Freddy's. This is the place you want to be at. Be sure to follow all of my socials, and with all that garbage out the way, let's get into this matchup. I've scaled Kratos multiple times now, so I want to start off with Asura. And at the grossest of lowballs, he's casually country to multi-continental. But this is Asura we're talking about. He wouldn't be compared to Kratos if he was only country level. Wait, people compare Homelander and Omni-Man all the time, so maybe I shouldn't put it past them. Anyways, let's talk about Asura's perhaps most infamous feat, which I like to call the Fat Man Finger Poke. Well, for starters, according to the Versus Wiki, the energy output of this finger has been calculated by the Versus Wiki to be outputting around 701 zetatons of TNT. To put that massive number into perspective, that's enough energy to destroy the planet Earth over 11 times over. But this attack can yield higher results if you take the statement to say he's as big as a planet literal, which is quite obviously the case, which would boost the feat's yield to around 4.8 yotatons, which is around large planetary. Asura was not only able to counter this attack, but he was able to completely obliterate Wyzen, and upon his death, he produced a massive explosion, which has been calculated to be as low as 9.9 ronatons to even a jaw-dropping 390 ronatons of TNT, which is dwarf star level at its peak. For some more consistency, Asura scales the characters who can kick and stagger characters that are easily the size of planets. Asura himself isn't a pushover by any means, as he can literally endure being stabbed by weapons that can cut through entire planets, and then go on to break those same very weapons. So overall, Asura's got some pretty good stuff from the base game, but this isn't anywhere near to the peak of his power. This is because Asura's Wrath got DLC, in which Asura achieved new heights of power. As I said before, in the base game, he'd be around dwarf star level at his peak. This DLC took the casual cosmic level scaling and chose to up the ante by 100, and most if not all of these higher levels of power comes from Asura's final fight against Vartan, who is portrayed to be as big as an entire galaxy, and he's literally encompassed by multiple galaxies around him. And to solidify the stellar scaling, Asura in this state destroys multiple planets, moons, and stars, with even some red and blue giants thrown in the mix. A common rebuttal for the scope of Vartan is that the celestial bodies are simply smaller than what they're portraying to be. My counter to that is that it's simply a gameplay mechanic, as in order to spawn that amount of galaxies and stars and have them be up to scale would just be a lot of unnecessary work. So I think this is one rare instance where you can take author's intent to heart due to the nature of video games, where stuff has to be made with the player in mind instead of lore and consistency. This mindset is found throughout a number of games, even God of War itself, so author's intent in the context of video games is fair enough. Asura would go on to destroy this form of Vartan, and the downplay I was talking about earlier doesn't even work anymore because the next scene establishes that Vartan created the entire universe. This line of scaling is consistent, as not only did he create the universe, he was the ruler of Narakar. I don't know how to say that. But anyways, this realm was an infinite-sized construct, and Asura would go on to destroy it in a single blow, granting Asura high universal attack potency. And that's where Asura's consistent ends stop, but we can get into higher ends, but they're just a little rattier, so be prepared for that. Some people take the scan right here that states that other worlds are in need of Shirata Varden's guidance to kind of infer that multiverses exist in this cosmology. I want to note that the word world means universe because this is more consistent with the context, and this is consistent as the words are interchangeable in the Japanese kanji. But like I was saying, people argue that Shirata Varden created multiple universes, moving up the chain to higher ends. He was also stated to be the embodiment of the Wheel of Life, which in Buddhism is endless. Combine that with the previously mentioned possible multiverse, you could argue this character is anywhere from low multiversal to anywhere as high as multiversal plus, when taking into account the infinite Wheel of Life. As for speed now, Asura is casually MFTL plus, as he was able to dodge and react to lasers being shot out from thousands of light years away. But moving away from the quantifiable scaling, and once again it comes from Narkara. Anyways, the pillars for this realm are described as endless, and Asura was able to cross them and get to the land of the living after a very short period of time, granting him infinite speed, as he's able to cross an infinite sized distance in a finite amount of time. So to wrap everything up with Asura, he's anywhere from at least star level to more than likely high universal to maybe even a little bit higher, and his speed would be anywhere from MFTL plus, as he can react to projectiles that can cross interstellar distances in seconds, but at the absolute peak of his speed scaling, he can be scaled all the way up to infinite speed. Honestly, Asura's a lot stronger than I thought he was, but will it be enough to kill the esteemed god of war? You guys know I've scaled Kratos more than my fair amount of times, so I'm gonna try my best to make this section new while also catering to potential new viewers, so let's get into that. So starting off with God of War Ascension, Kratos was able to beat the Furies, who could create entire illusions that are so wide and vast that they contain stars. According to the Versus Wiki once again, the amount of energy required to create such constructs will come out to around multi-solar system level, though this is assuming that these realms are actually physical, which might not be the case. But we can also get into the stellar levels of power, as he can do this to Helios, who is the god of the sun and is referenced to be a sun god, and he also says he has the power of the sun on multiple occasions, granting him at the barest minimum star level attack potency. Guys, remember Helios because we'll get into his scaling a little bit later. But anyways, Kratos, after losing his god powers in God of War 2, was shown to be able to restrain and hold back Atlas, who's the strongest of all the titans and is a being strong enough to hold up the heavens in Greek mythology. Kratos being this strong is consistent because as early as during the events of God of War Ascension, Kratos was shown to overpower the arms of Aegeon, who was a titan-sized prison, who was stated by Ariel Lawrence, the writer and producer of Ascension, to be as powerful as Atlas. Kratos also beat down Hercules, who in his dialogue references the 12 labors. One of said labors was infamously holding up the world for Atlas. So even looking inverse, Kratos scaling to Atlas is pretty consistent. But how strong would this make Kratos? And to get into that, we're going to talk about what Atlas was holding. And to get into that topic, we're going to have to talk about Chains of Olympus, a PSP side game that's canon to the Greek saga. And I'm just going to say it, guys, this game has quite the scaling implications when scaled properly, so let's get into that. But basically, this game has the goddess Persephone threaten the world pillar, which holds up not only all of Earth, but all of creation, which would include multiple infinite-sized realms, such as the underworld and the mortal realm, as well as a plethora of other realms and constructs. And it's also stated that if it was ever destroyed, it would threaten all of creation and revert everything back to the primordial realm of chaos, making the world pillar a low multiversal construct. And even jobber Olympians such as Persephone and Helios possess enough power to cause serious damage and even destroy the pillar. Upon the pillar's destruction, Atlas was cursed to hold up the section that was destroyed, meaning Atlas scales to around low multiversal, and as previously mentioned, a Kratos who lost all of his god powers was able to match him. All of this scaling is consistent as Kratos beats Zeus, who's the strongest of all the Greek gods, and is narratively implied to be able to one-shot Hades Poseidon, who upscale all the other Olympians. Kratos, by scaling to Zeus, also by extension scales to the attack that ended the Great War, as this attack is referenced to be Zeus's concentrated power. Keep in mind this is a younger and likely weaker Zeus than the one Kratos scales to, so by the peak of his power by the end of the Greek saga, Kratos would comfortably fall into the low multiversal category of power. From there, Kratos would only gain new feats and arguably become even stronger, as I pointed out in this video right here. But anyways, the bulk of Kratos' scaling during this time period comes from lore, where it can be argued he scales to the Yggdrasil, a construct that transcends the notions of time and space. There are many ways to scale Kratos to this tree. For example, here's one instance. Thor and the World Serpent are noted to be able to splinter it with the shockwaves of their clash. Kratos obviously scales to Thor, and he can scale to the World Serpent via scaling the boulder, who was shown to be able to knock it out. Another way to scale Kratos to the tree is that he scales to the Valkyries and Freya. This is notable because the Valkyries' magic is powerful and potent enough to make the Yggdrasil bleed. For more direct scaling, Kratos can literally pick up dues of the Yggdrasil to amp himself. All these feats and scaling would get Kratos to around low complex multiversal, or 5D, and he would fall into this level of power to arguably an infinite degree due to the Yggdrasil being infinite size construct. Moving on to speed now, and starting off with the more quantifiable stuff, Kratos should upscale the Primordials, who collectively lost to the Titans.
In terms of sheer aggression, you can't beat the Titans.
They overthrew their parents, Kronos castrating Uranus and basically overthrowing his parents.
He dismembered his own dad, right?
Who all got one-shotted by a young Zeus. The Primordials during God of War Ascension created the entire universe during a great battle, and assuming the universe isn't infinite, which more than likely isn't the case, the speed of this battle and its combatants has been calculated to be as low as 63 billion times the speed of light, and as high as 444 quadrillion times the speed of light. And for those of you guys who are bad at math like myself, quadrillion is literally 15 zeros. I want to note that MFTL Plus is a low ball for Kratos, as he scales to Hermes, who could dodge and react to the light of Helios. And for those of you guys saying that this is merely a gameplay mechanic and it's not canon, that very same gameplay mechanic has been stated to be an intentional add-on to the game to illustrate how fast Hermes is. This is notable because the light of Helios was able to light the entire underworld, which is an infinite sized construct. From there, you can get into higher levels of speed, such as inaccessible. This mainly comes from the fact that the Primordials are reference to predate time and space. This little piece of lore would also upscale Helios' light, as he was capable of banishing the primordial Nyx, subsequently making her retreat from the night skies every day while bringing light to the world.
On the edge of the Aegean, where the great god Helios banishes Nyx from the night sky, an epic battle rages.
And from there, you can still get even higher to immeasurable speed, as Kratos is scaling constructs that transcend the notions of time and space, granting him immeasurable speed. This scaling is very impressive, and please keep in mind that Kratos gets stronger every day. So theoretically, this might not even be the limit to the Ghost of Sparta's power.
My vengeance ends now.
Alright, with the power of our combatants fully analyzed, who wins this matchup? And if you even remotely understand power scaling a little bit, you would understand that Kratos wins this matchup low diff. Asura, while stronger than I thought, is still only around Galaxy to High Universal consistently. And low-key, just by using Greek Kratos, Asura kind of gets outscaled both in the speed and attack potency department. But like I said and proposed, you can use a super high-end interpretation that gets Asura all the way up to potentially multiversal plus. And even then, once you bring in Norse scaling, he gets outscaled again, this time by an entire level of dimensionality. And not gonna lie, Greek Kratos does kind of scale to his Norse saga. While I must reiterate, Norse saga is stronger, there are some narrative implications that would seem to imply relativity between the two sagas of God of War. Some examples of this are Brock stating that the blades of chaos are impressive, the same Brock that helped create Thor's hammer. Brock even verbatimly brings up Thor's hammer when complimenting the blades. Another narrative instance is the fact that Mimir states that Zeus being Kratos' dad is a valid explanation as to why he's so strong. So there's a lot of many things like that. I go into this line of scaling much deeper into this video right here, but there's some stuff that would imply relativity. I only bring it up because you could argue that Greek Kratos arguably blitzes and one-shots Asura even scaled to his absolute peak of power. From there, people would try to cope and try to scale Asura to Buddhism and Wukong and stuff like that. I feel as though going over such flimsy arguments would be redundant, and it's honestly a showcase of Asura's stands going out sad. I think it's pretty ironic because you can do the exact same things to the Greek gods because they have out-reversal metas mythologically speaking. I'll put it like this. Both of these gods, upon their victory, faced death at their own hands. Only one of them stayed dead, and it wasn't Kratos. And with that, hopefully I put the age-old debate to rest. Despite all the narrative similarities and parallels, this matchup turned out to be anything but close. If you guys made it to the end of this video, I'd like to thank you. Take it from someone who makes videos once a week, time can be very, very valuable. So the fact that you guys come every week to watch these videos, it's very, very humbling. And heck, if you're new here and you just found the channel like 20 minutes ago, be sure to subscribe. It's free and you can unsub anytime you want. Before I go, I'd like to thank Edgar once again. Though I didn't directly ask him for help this time, this might be a surprise if he's watching this video. But if you're watching, thank you. Your scan documents are very, very useful. Be sure to follow all his socials, and heck, be sure to follow my socials if you want to be on top of what I'm doing. But anyways, I'll be back next week. But until then, stay Big G fans.